Mabuhay from the Philippines. I am Matias. I'm taking Masters in Multimedia Arts at Mapua University School of Media Studies and Graduate Studies. My research title is A Study on the Level of Effectiveness of Multimedia Content on Instructional Methodologies to Improve the Quality of Students' Learning Experience during COVID-19 Pandemic. Multimedia brings variation of elements such as graphics, text, animations, video, and audio that makes learning easier and faster. Here is a brief background of the study. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, classes were forced to shift from face-to-face modality to online courses. Institutions in the province and nearby cities are still exploring possible ways to deliver a quality learning experience to students using virtual classrooms and applications. After the resumptions of classes last August in 2020, in Ilocos Norte, most tertiary institutions adopted the new normal of education, or what we called online learning. Based on my observation and interviews with graduate students in our locality, they raised issues related to their instructors' instruction mode, especially the freshman students, since they are the first batch to experience the new normal. Issues they raise are modular instructions wherein some instructors give modules or soft copy of lectures in their classes. The statement of the problem. What are the advantages of using multimedia content as methodology for teaching and learning? What are the downsides of utilizing multimedia presentation in class? What makes interactive multimedia content learning effective as a teaching strategy? And how does multimedia affect the performance of students in online class setup? The study is useful for policymakers in the field of science education, curriculum developers, school administrators, principals, teachers, parents, and fellow students. The study will provide a guideline to the teachers to develop a strategy for effective teaching, and it will help to develop positive attitude of students towards their subjects. And the study is a valuable contribution in indigenous literature. With regards to the theoretical framework of the study, it was equipped by the cognitive theory of multimedia learning by Mayer. The cognitive theory of multimedia learning by Mayer of 1947 is a principle known as the multimedia principle states that the people learn more deeply from words and pictures than from words alone. This study conceptualizes that the most effective form of educational materials by the students. Students learn best through observation and modeling. Students observe and imitate symbolic models which are from what they watch or listen to multimedia content material. They are surrounded by many influential models and this encode their behavior. Copying these behaviors from models like what multimedia content do is more likely to happen when people perceive themselves to the model. Thus, if the students watch education material with graphics or video or audio, they can remember the sequence of events and use this information to guide subsequently behavior. They can be more engaged to what they already know, thus determining the important factors such as the most preferred and what makes interactive multimedia content learning effective as a teaching strategy and how does multimedia affect the performance of the students in online class setup. The methodology. This study utilized a quantitative research design which focuses more on expressions such as numerical data, objective thinking, and scientific method. This study was conducted in the different tertiary institutions in Ilocos Norte, Mariano Marcos State University, Northwestern University, Divine Word College of Lawag, Data Center College of the Philippines Lawag, and Northern Christian College. These are the top 5 higher education institutions in the province in terms of population. This study utilized cluster sampling, and the respondents must be ages of 18 years old to 24 years old, enrolled in an academic year, familiar with online education modalities. With regard to the instrument, in the conduct of the study, a researcher-made questionnaire checklist was used to gather the needed data for the student's profile. The questionnaire made was based on the information gathered from the students through an interview and literature, and the studies will also be used in the formulation of the survey. Responses to the questionnaire by the students was statistically analyzed with the data requirements of the study. Students was statistically analyze the data instruments of the study to determine the level of effectiveness of multimedia content as instructional methodologies to improve the quality of students' learning experience during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, to treat the data gathered, different tool was utilized such as frequency count, percentage, ranking, and weighted mean if needed. The results of the study: majority of the respondents belong to the age of 20 to 22 years old. As to their sex, most of the respondents were females, and most of the respondents are second-year students. What is the most used software in class discussion during conference session? As seen from the table, most of them use Google Meet, which has 22 respondents or 66.7 respondents. For the question, do you encounter multimedia presentations or PowerPoint presentations in your classes? In the results showed that 53.3% of the respondents stated that sometimes they encounter multimedia presentations or PowerPoint presentation in their classes. In the question, do you encounter multimedia presentations or PowerPoint presentation in your classes? The figures showed that 53.3% of the respondents stated that sometimes they encounter multimedia presentations or PowerPoint presentation in their classes. On the other hand, do your instructors always utilize multimedia presentations? The figures showed that 66.7% stated that some of their instructors always use multimedia presentations. In this figure, which of these principles you take makes learning easier? The table showed that the majority of the respondents learn easier because of the use of images on screen, text, and verbal narration. Which among the aspects of your performance is affected by multimedia learning? Most of the respondents had a positive impact on their performance in their classes. Majority of them stated that it serves them as a motivation and also enhances them in participating in classes, and also improve creativity in their performance tasks. In the statement, how did multimedia learning affect you as a student or a learner? The table showed that the most positive impact that most of the respondents stated is they become more independent, but contrary, they also stated that they become less participative and motivated in classes. For the evaluation on the effectivity of multimedia content as instructional materials, in Statement 1, showed that majority of respondents, 36.7%, said sometimes they get more interested with their subjects when the lesson is presented with graphics such as photos, videos, and animation. Statement 2 showed that most of the respondents often enjoyed multimedia presentations more than just plain printed modules. Statement number 3 showed that 40% of the respondents often participate more when there are visual and audio annotations presented in class. Statement 4 showed that 40% of the respondents are often remember the lesson more than when they are presented through multimedia. Statement 5 showed that 43.3% of the sometimes lose focus when lessons is presented through multimedia. Statement 6 showed that 40% sometimes find it difficult to comprehend the lesson when it presented in multimedia. While in statement number 7 showed that 36.3% of the respondents stated sometimes they feel less constrained when the lessons are presented through multimedia. So here is my analysis based on the data gathered. Based on the results of the survey, most of the students encounter multimedia presentations in their classes. However, some teachers and instructors are not utilizing multimedia learning tools as their strategy in teaching, since some are still embracing board discussions or bare text modules. The majority of respondents claim that using images, videos, and on-screen text and verbal narration, also called the multimedia principle by Mayor of 2001, is preferred by them than the traditional black and white direct text handout. This is also present in their study of Mayer. According to Mayer, multimedia principal students are more motivated to learn when the material presented is easier to understand, such as using images and words that define or explain the graphics. This also strengthens the students' interest when visual presentation, such as images and words, and audio annotations, such as the teacher's explanations. Students are more motivated in performing tasks that are mostly affected by multimedia learning due to the element it offers and it presents to the learners. Based on the study resulted or conducted by MBBE or 2020, wherein visual learning helps you store information for a more extended period. It is said that videos and images and text are directly processed by a long-term memory. Visual learning increases retention by 29 to 42%, and it helps you process information primarily through visuals and improves your learning process, and it keeps you motivated through your learning processes. Furthermore, most of the students became more creative in performance tasks because it is mostly affected by multimedia learning due to the elements it offers and presents to the learners. Based on the results of the study conducted by Casim in 2014, the students showed aesthetic and novel qualities due to animation's usage, which influenced their creativity and performance. However, it was also stated that not all students are introduced to multimedia presentations, which shows that some students are still engaged and used to board discussions, plain text handouts and text PDF files, no verbal discussion. This is also why not all participants claimed that they use mediated devices to study and enjoy their classes. The result supports Grant's study of 2010, where he stated that the teachers who utilize multimedia learning motivate the students to participate due to its interactivity and the graphics give. So these are the conclusions. Based on the results, most of the students agreed that multimedia presentation is a good contributor to better understand their discussion during online classes. With the presence of graphics, video, text, narration, audio, and customized templates, the students observe the lessons in a more comprehensive and creative manner. Also, results showed that multimedia learning encourages students to learn more. However, not all the teachers from the different higher education institutions in the province are embracing the usage of multimedia learning tool. Some students still encounter board discussions in their classes. One factor is the lack of training and familiarity of senior instructors and not tech instructors, wherein they face struggles in navigating such software and creating multimedia contents. It was also shown in the results that multimedia learning made some of the students way more independent. This emphasizes that students utilize the contents of the graphics presented in the classes, which gave a better explanation, and if they some encounter difficulties of understanding, they can always go back to their multimedia content materials when the teacher is done explaining the lesson. These are the recommendations. It is clear from this research that despite government attempts to continue education in times of pandemic, a lot of these institutions adopted the new normal modalities, but unfortunately they're still lacking producing quality content. Although we found out in the study the positive attributes of multimedia in education, the technological groundwork of the schools should be improved, and the schools should be designed in a way to present opportunities for multimedia use. The conduct of series of trainings and seminar in technical skills, especially in multimedia content creating. This will help instructors who are getting hard time in coping up the trend. The future researchers who are interested in conducting a study similar to multimedia learning may also consider the suggested topics below. Number 1. May conduct comparative research that compares the differences in utilization of multimedia learning in higher education institution and other schools or any other institution to another school to identify how teachers are embracing this kind of teaching strategy. May up with a study that tackles the role of multimedia elements on the students' cognitive performance, and this will focus more on how the students observe, decipher the lessons by reading or analyzing the graphics. They can also present a similar study about the relationship between text and multimedia and how it affects the students' ability to express themselves in written and verbal means. That ends my presentation. Again, I am Remark po si Matias from Mapua University School of Media Studies, Mabuhay from the Philippines. Thank you so much. Maraming salamat po.